Hey everyone, welcome to Running Retro. So we're going to do a little bit of a different thing today. I keep talking about my setup and what's going on. And you guys have seen all of my consoles. There was an unboxing of the TurboGrafx 16 on stream. But other than that, you guys have seen pretty much everything that I've got here. Now, the question is, how do I hook it all up? So today, we're going to take a little bit of a walkthrough on how I actually have my setup together. And this is the start of a different video series where we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to actually set this stuff up. Like if you want to stream retro consoles, how you can do it and how I do it. Now, some of this equipment is really expensive, and some of it can be really hard to get. So, if you're going to do this, expect to have to cough up some cash up front because it's going to cost you a chunk on the front end. If you're just wanting to play these on a TV, this isn't a problem. If you want to stream it, I don't see many people talking about that, and it's one of those things that it could really use a little bit more attention, a little bit more love. So we will attempt to start addressing some of that here and now, especially if you are beginner to intermediate, then these videos will be for you. Now, as you can see, we have a lot of different consoles. So I make my cutoff at the PlayStation 2. After the PlayStation 2, you start getting high def outputs over HDMI. And at that point, I feel like the consoles have shifted. Now, that's fine because it's pretty easy to capture a lot of the newer consoles. They're a little finicky as far as like the PlayStation 4 needing some tweaking, and the Switch, and they've all got their quirks. But as far as actually getting them set up and plugged into a capture card, that part's easy. Getting all of these plugged into a capture card, that's the real trick. So, how do I do it? Well, I have everything hooked up over SCART. Now, that's pretty easy because you just need a SCART cable, but there's a catch. The Sega systems naturally output RGB. And if you are looking for how to get into video signals and all of that, that's not this video. I'm going to be using the terms if you are interested and you need more information on it. Then we will continue to do more videos on that stuff later. But just know that you have composite, component, RGB. And a lot of that is the type of connector. I use RGB over SCART, personally. And I'll show you what that is. So, I have all of my consoles set up over SCART, and I have them all, using RGB. The Nintendo needs to be modded to output RGB. So be aware, if you want to use RGB on an original Nintendo, you will have to mod your system or buy a modded system. The Nintendo 64 is the same thing. It actually has RGB built in, but it was never hooked up, so you need to do a mod on your system. Now, the Super Nintendo does output RGB, so that one's the easy one. And with the Game Boy player and some adapters, that's reasonably accessible. All the other consoles that I've got output RGB natively. The GameCube is probably the hardest because I personally use the high def port, or the digital out, and the AV out rather. And I made my own cable for that because they did make component cables for the GameCube, but they are only available new. Insurrection made some for a little while, but they're out of stock. And the last time I checked, they were not planning on making any more. If they make more, by all means, go for them. But until that happens, there you go. In the meantime, I had to find a way to make my own. I will also talk about that at some other point in time. The TurboGrafx 16 is a bit of a difficulty to get RGB modded as well, but I use a different mod for that that I will not go into today because it's more of an EverDrive style thing than it is a mod. But I take all of my consoles and I run them to a SCART switch. So my setup, I take all of my consoles and I run them all into this SCART switch. Now, I got this offline. If you look Retro RGB, their site has a bunch of good SCART switches. So if you're looking for information on SCART switches, I tend to go and look at their site. We're not affiliated with them at all, but I do use them. I do use them for a lot of input on how to set a lot of this stuff up. Again, I find that the beginning stuff is covered, the final product is covered. It's sort of the middle, the intermediary that is not covered so much. So I actually have two SCART switches because this only handles 12 inputs, and I have more than that. So if you look down low, I actually have another SCART switch down there. And the reason I have the second SCART switch is I run my component RGB. There are a couple cables I can't use SCART for, like the Xbox, for instance. So instead, I run that to a component down there that I then convert to SCART and run back up to this main SCART switch. So you'll see the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2 are all on the same switch, and everything else is good to go down the line. Now, one thing to note is all of mine are standard SCART, not JP21. One nice thing about this SCART switch is that I can press any of these switches and it will convert to JP21. They're just two different styles of SCART, and they are different pinouts, so you do need to be careful about it. But if that is not something that you are doing, you don't need to worry about it. Now, I run this cable all the way around my video setup because all of this is behind me when I'm streaming. So I have a long SCART cable that goes around to the front. Alright, so as you guys know, I use a Sony PVM-20L5. And what I do is I connect the PVM via a SCART to BNC switch. Adapter. So this is my SCART to BNC adapter with split out audio. Now I also have a BNC adapter for my audio, so that BNC RCA single to dual adapter for my audio. So it takes the one audio input off of the PVM and splits it into right and left. And then you need to have a specific input BNC to SCART, which you can find by just looking around online. And then I have my output as a BNC to SCART adapter, and you need a specific one that has an output with broken out audio and sync. So this has this yellow wire going in is broken out BNC sync. This is my broken out BNC out. I also have split out audio going out, and I have again customized my cable so that it actually has a dedicated audio out. And all of that goes up top to my XRGB Mini FrameMeister, and I have an adapter for that that is JP21 to standard SCART. Now, there are only a few places to get that stuff. We will go into where to get this hardware more at some other point, but just so you can actually see what I've got, Then my XRGB Mini FrameMeister, it has an HDMI out, which is going to my AverMedia capture card on my desktop. I also have a an OSSC here, and I do have a RetroTink. I do not use the OSSC or the RetroTink for streaming because you can get better quality, but by the time I'm streaming it, the difference in quality for streaming between the XRGB Mini FrameMeister versus the OSSC is not that great, and at the same time, it also is a much bigger pain in the butt to set the OSSC up. Now, the upside of the OSSC is that it is far more budget friendly than the XRGB Mini FrameMeister. Just know that if you are going to go with the OSSC, it is a bit more of a headache, especially for streaming. A lot of capture cards are grouchy when I use the OSSC. So it's a beautiful piece of equipment. If it worked for me consistently, I would use it. However, the FrameMeister works for me with almost no issues and no troubleshooting all the time. So I just don't worry about it. I just use my FrameMeister. And if you want to stream and you can get your hands on one, it is not the best upscaler you can get. But for streaming, I think it might be the best option you can get. And folks, that is my setup for how I stream all of these retro consoles to you. So thanks for joining. We will go more into detail on all of this stuff. I just wanted to give you an overview and sort of an introduction to how I set my stuff up and what I've done. So you can also see sort of what goes into it in a very, very cursory manner. We will be going through and reorganizing the consoles, and I will be doing a console by console setup for how I personally set all of that up. So thank you for joining. We appreciate it, and we will see you soon.